has been hotfixed, but it's still enabled. Also worth noting that because it is enabled, it will probably be likely at Worlds too, because every region now has that there. Care passes it up, goes for the Lucian instead. That leaves it open for Ucal.
Will they take it into the Lucian? Or will it go top lane as well? Remember, Aurora a flex currently, so you can blind it and always swap it between lanes if you're not happy with the matchup that you've got here. I'd expect both Hoya and Ucal, and ZDZ and Care for that matter, will have been practicing this pick at least a little bit, or at least you would hope so. It will be locked in. We get Aurora again, and I think that's going to be a theme across the course of LPL playoffs. Importantly, this is the hot-fixed Aurora. This is not the original release Aurora. You say it so many times, it suddenly becomes difficult to say.
If it goes into TT's top lane, it'll be Aurora. We'll save that one.
But yeah, ever so slightly nerfed version, still very, very strong, let's be honest.
Yeah. Now, what this does mean is that you have a magic damage mid laner. This does mean that Beichuan maybe doesn't have to go towards that in the jungle himself. He could go towards an AD/initiating jungler. Maybe Sejuani could be powerful here as well to have all of this big snap engage. The stuff that can punish that Lucian very well. On the other side, MilkyWay or Life could be picking up that Maokai. That is a flex pick, and FPX are one of our most flexible teams in the LPL. But ZDC with that cannon should give 2 strong early lanes for FPX. Aurora, still a strong champion in her own right, but Lucian is still Lucian at the end of the day and should be getting push.
The Maokai for potentially MilkyWay feels reminiscent to me of last playoffs as well, where FPX really started to move away from just jungle carrying more into a team environment. Maybe that is the way they'll go again. As TT grab a Viego for Beichuan. All about that first kill and then finding a reset.
Yeah, so, we have seen the Viego Aurora. I'm trying to remember if it was played in PCS for a game, but this has been played as a combination, and it is very, very strong. Now, when Aurora casts her ultimate, that giant rings appears on the ground. You don't get out of that unless you have a flash or a blink. It's not easy to get through it. What that means is that you are trapped inside the Thunderdome for Viego to potentially get a reset. So, FPX are going to have to be very, very careful at playing around where Aurora could come out of Fog of War, come out of Invisibility, and pop their own champions. This game is going to be very much about responsible pushing lanes from FPX. If you push too far and there's an Aurora and a Viego there, you die. TT will probably need an extra engaged threat to make sure this isn't just an Aurora threat composition. They would have loved that Leona, and of course I'd imagine stuff like potentially a Rakan or a Nautilus is also taken away now by FPX in these last bans. But if they get themselves another pick threat, I think this composition becomes really, really deadly as soon as someone breaks apart from that grouped up formation that FPX might want to start putting together.
I kind of also just like the cannon here as a, like, oh, you want to make a big circle that we don't want to fight in? Well, I can make a circle too. you want a circle off? I'll give you a circle. We'll see if ZDZ can find his moments. But Hoya now looking towards a top lane pickup here. We did see a slight Nasus hover for a second. I know the AP Nasus can do well into cannon. It's not going to be that, though. It's going to be, sounds like, oh my lord, look at this, top of life. Caitlyn Braum instant lock-in.
Wow, okay, so the thing is, Braum can still suffer against some champions. Maybe a last bit Karma could work here for TT. That could really help them secure this laning phase. Ezreal Karma can still bully this out, something that top esports flexed to earlier in the split. It would mean Feather is off of initiation duty, which has been his bread and butter. He's loved that Alistar. He does lock in that Karma. It means that we suddenly, this is not about potentially high jungle presence top side. I think it might be on bot side now. I think it might have to be. Caitlyn, Braum, Ezreal Karma, all about this first couple of levels of the game. Who's landing the skill shots? Who's getting the chunk out? Because that will be a real nexus of power in that bot side.
It certainly will. I mean, Caitlyn, if she can get ahead, will take over a game. But the same thing for Ezreal Karma. It's so difficult to win versus this lane. It's one of the most oppressive lanes in the entire bot lane, I would say. Let's see if TT can use it. Now, TT, they have the highest dragon percentage in the league. They love playing for this bottom lane. And they have Ezreal Karma against Braum to work with. It feels like a solid way to start their playoffs.
So, game one. We know that both these teams have occasionally pulled out some different stuff. FPX particularly, this team has been flexible. They have been innovative. And they've been bold with what they've come away with from draft. They really are leveraging towards this bot side in a way which I don't think they really did in spring besides that Ashe Rumble. They found new ways to do it here in summer. Both these teams have evolved from their former selves. You're up against each other here in that first round to see who moves forwards.
First round, second time TT have ever been in playoffs. Technically, once they went as Sino-Dragon, but that's a long time ago. Sino-Dragon is 2 organizational changes away from TT, so we'll say this is their second time as an organization here. FPX, on the other hand, big expectations to live up to. They are living in the shadow of 2019. Let's see if they can make a run here in 2024. Well, the fans are out here today. Let's see if the players can live up to that expectation. I just want to quickly point out on the scoreboard there, Beichuan actually starting with his jungle item. No pot, happy with the amount of sustain that Viego has in the jungle. Feels he can clear healthy enough and save himself that 50 gold.
So sometimes we saw this as Faded Ashes junglers, where you wouldn't go for the pot and try and just get as much gold towards your Faded Ashes on your first back as easily as possible. Beichuan will see what he gets off that first back, and of course Viego does have that sustain, as you're saying. So those early jungle clears are going to be very important when suddenly you have the Ezreal Karma and the Caitlyn Braum, very, very powerful, and you can see that already both these junglers hovering towards their top side. They will be clearing from top side down to bot side, and we'll see how quickly and effectively they can get involved in these lanes.
And it does feel like there could be a bit of a scrap, couldn't there, down in that bottom side, like Viego versus Maokai. Both these junglers quite happy to be a part of an early skirmish. Both of these teams quite happy to be a part of an early skirmish. We'll see how MilkyWay can impact this game as well. Obviously, was the kind of main character of the spring split, got himself that Rookie of the Year, and I think very much deservedly so after his spring. But bringing out the Maokai for his first game of playoffs, very much a different look than what we've got used to from the Superstar Jungler.
Yeah, you know, in spring, carry jungler in the utility meta, and then in summer, somehow, doing the other side of it. Here's the initiator to everything else you see in the mid lane as well. We'll have to keep an eye on that Aurora, and whether MilkyWay can make those big plays, kind of corral the map, use those saplings before Ucal can start pulling out those huge between worlds combos when you get that big ultimate onto someone unexpected. I really think that the 2 players that we set up for success from both these teams, MilkyWay, Rookie of the Year, Ucal, who's been the flag bearer for this team for so long, I think they have the tools to really lead their own teams in this first game.
See if they can find that way. A lot of it's going to be down to potentially lane and skirmish advantages, which up in this top lane you'd expect ZDZ to have. You know, this player coming in, kind of changing the fortune a little bit for FPX. It felt like they were really struggling. ZDZ joined the fray, and it does feel like things have started to look a little bit better for FPX since he joined this organization. I mean, ZDZ, absolute globetrotter in that top lane, the amount of teams he has been on this year. But enough about top lane, because we just witnessed 1xN E-forwards as MilkyWay is entering the bottom lane. This is an opportunity for FPX to start the bot lane strong. Flash force, but the Q goes wide from life, and it means now 1xN can chase. Now Beichuan can flash forward for first blood, and he gets his first reset to set up for a second kill. Life has nowhere to go. Double for 1xN.
Yeah, there's no MilkyWay in the sky tonight. It is just 1 star. It is 1xN getting away with 2 kills. That is exactly what TT wanted out of this. Kills into the lane, which FPX had indexed so much in their draft into. This is gold standard for what we want in this early game. And sadly for FPX, it was them calling that play. They wanted to make that difference in the early game. It is completely turned against them now.
That is not the start that FPX wanted, and the Maokai working out for TT instead, because MilkyWay is flashed way too far into the play here, takes a tower shot and sets up for Beichuan.
And also just Maokai is not the best early ganking champion because of this. You can flash him away from his follow-up. The Braum, yes, did miss that Q, but it was quite a long-range follow-up all the same. I don't even think if that Q hits, they would change anything. I think they're still dead, even if that hits. Yeah, you get a Braum stun. Everyone's still going down at the same time. So now, 1xN gets himself involved early. TT have done a really good job in their recent series of getting themselves onto the board early, whether it's with Ucal most of the time, but with also 1xN also as well, part of that early game goal that can come towards this team. This is now a huge problem for FPX because Caitlyn, Braum, their whole MO is destroy lane. That ain't happening nearly so easily now, but Feather does somehow miss that Q, and that's a thing.
ZDZ, though, having a similar MO in the top side as he sends Hoya back to base. I just want to quickly point out as well, Hoya is teleport exhaust on Cassante. That is an anti-Kennen build if ever I saw one, for going flash to make sure that this Kennen can't take over fights.
No, we have seen that into the Kennen a couple of times now, to the point where it was really fun seeing like double exhaust comps coming out, because Kazan's man, this is nasty as heck in the bot lane, because this is the extra thing which we'll lead on to. The exhaust in top lane means you don't need it in bot lane. 1xN and Feather can take a heal instead of that exhaust. It means they can be more lane dominant. This is part of a bigger picture. And of course, now with that bot lane getting ahead, it really helps them. Oh yeah, now potentially going for an all-out here.
ZDZ finds the stun though, repositions, he'll be okay on that one. But as you say, yeah, it just leads to this bot lane dominance. The fact that they don't have to take that defensive summoner means that the cleanse can be there for 1xN, means that heal can still be in play for the 2v2. Just look how one-sided this 2v2 is. This is against the Caitlyn. Caitlyn is picked to win lane, and this is not looking like a lane win right now.
No, this is the problem when you give that counter pick support over as well. Braum is not an uncounterable champion.
Oh my
God, they might even just die.
They're just gonna kill him with the tower. Live gets his shield up. It won't save him. Feather tanks, and then a flash cleanse over the wall from 1xN, so he gets away. Care though, stuck inside the circle, looking for the reset of flashes. Just after the circle's gone, gets away with his life.
So Lucian can't dash out of that ultimate, worth noting, folks. You have to use that flash, and he doesn't have that now. So Ucal getting something out of that mid lane. It's just going from bad to worse for FPX. Now Care suddenly not going to be in a position to push out. That means that FPX can't contest with something like those grubs. So TT took that first dragon. They take those grubs. Everything in this early game continues to go better for them. Life is now out on the map, but I mean, what realistically is he going to be able to do here? The Lucian Braum is a decent combination, but I don't think they're in the best position to fight this. Feather's coming up too.
TT managed to get the first Drake. They will get one grub as well out of the first three. Honestly, I think Beichuan will be happy with that. With how bot lane is going, being able to deny 3 grubs as well on the top side, he'll be very happy with the result of this early game as Beichuan, because he's already got himself a pickaxe. His bot lane is massively ahead, so he could even focus on trying to shut down this Kennen at this point. I don't know how advisable that would be. That could be play-by-play analysis right there, but 1xN, nice cleanse into flash to get himself away from MilkyWay.
Yeah, so he doesn't have any summoners, but hey, he'll take the kill. 3 kills up, of course. Ezreal is one of those fun champions where he is somewhat of a time-gated champion, where getting gold on him matters earlier than it does if it goes into the mid-game. If you get it early, you get an earlier tier. You get yourself earlier towards those transformations and towards that 2-item spike. So 1xN, within the first 6 minutes in the game, getting 3 kills, that's really, really bad, even compared to other AD carries, because the Ezreal gets so much extra bonus from being able to get towards that Triforce Muramana more quickly. So now we have to wait for that power spike to see how well 1xN can use it.
I feel like Ezreal is one of those champions that you have such a big trough in power early on, except when certain players are playing him. Beichuan doesn't have smite available, but will still just walk in and hit the chicken away from MilkyWay, using that priority in the bottom lane as Feather moves up to help him put pressure on. But yeah, the trough of power early for Ezreal just completely ignored this game. 1xN already basically stacked on his tier as Care is caught in the mid lane. Dashes away from the damage though. Very nicely played on the Lucian, and the tower shot goes through. Care flips it around.
Beichuan misses the stun and his ult. Care manages to sidestep all of it. Now MilkyWay comes to answer. Ucal has flash.
Ucal is doomed and he can't turn it around. Care finds 2 off of a 2v1 in mid.
How the heck did that happen? The Lucian turns it around. Beichuan, I really think, should have just flashed in for the W if you were going to hard commit there. I think he greeds it a little bit. It means that suddenly Care gets a lot of early game gold back. All right, game on. FPX, they get themselves a lot more towards parity in this early game. Watch this again. Care has no flash from that previous play which Ucal made onto him. Beichuan just misses everything. Misses his W, misses his ult. Tower shot comes through, flashes late, and he goes down. So Care picks up the fumble of Beichuan. That should have been a slam dunk. If you flash him for that stun, there's no way that doesn't work out. And Ucal he wouldn't have been able to flash out of this anyway. Chooses to save that summoner, no point in wasting that one. It's a massive win for Care.
And we came into this talking about Beichuan and his AP junglers, how his Lilia had looked good, how his Brandon looked good. Locks in the Viego, looked good in that initial bot lane play, looked good trying to put pressure individually onto MilkyWay, but these mid lane plays aren't really working out. Care surviving both attempts to the mid lane now, this time walking away with 2 kills, and suddenly what looked like pretty much a done deal for TT suddenly looks winnable.
What was that bloodiness rating you were talking about in pre-show? FPX, one of the highest in the league, 0.9 something or other, on a scale of 0 to 1.
Out of 1,
0.97 out of 1 for bloodiness. That's quite a lot. Well, they get themselves a lot of their own blood spilled early, but they do at least return that favor.
Look, that's the thing. They are top for kills at 15 in the whole league. They average 5 kills at 15 minutes, which, you know, for an average is very, very high. They also top the deaths at 15. This is a team that, you know, live and die by the early game, I think it's fair to say.
So, kind of bringing that into the picture of this game too, that early game, very powerful for FPX typically. Also worth noting as well, the kills have gone into the Aurora's lane as well. That's important. They gave up that Aurora in this draft and will be tracking that through the full best of 5 as well. If they can deal with this Aurora, with this Lucian, that changes the draft massively, so keep your eyes on that.
I'll also be keeping my eyes on Deokdam as we enter the mid-game, because we've all seen clips of Aurora coming out of invisibility and totally one-shotting an AD carry. It has happened in other major regions already. I would not be surprised to see that happening again today now Malignance is finished off. It does seem to be
full build
for Aurora, doesn't it?
Remember the full build Poppy, which is you hit level 3 and then suddenly nothing else matters to you two in the game? It is the same thing here. Aurora gets herself to, gets towards Malignance, gets towards that point where you just start spamming your ult with these aggressive players. And yeah, you can punish people overstepping. That's another thing we mentioned before. There are now some teleport wars. The Observer is very, very zoomed in on that.
The Observers do something we didn't there. Double TP, ZDZ and Care come into the play. They want to shut down 1xN, and shut him down they will. ZDZ grabs the bonus gold and is miles ahead in the top lane.
Alright, so on track for those 5 kills at 15 average for FPX. 1xN doesn't get the memo, and Arcane shifts into that glorious Kennen teleport, and then suddenly ZDZ can really start to threaten now, not just in his own lane, which you can do with that Leandri's built up, but of course everywhere across the map. TT, this is the lane where they had all their power. This is where they have those 3 kills, but watch this again, because it's that regular vision ward. You don't get to see it in that fog of war, and 1xN ease into it. He eased into it. He just didn't get that memo, maybe just hadn't had his camera placed in the right way. We don't have his POV to confirm that, but now the player with 3 kills suddenly gives a lot of that gold back over.
Oh, it's brutal. I mean, he's still ahead down in the bottom lane, make no mistake, because it wasn't the Caitlyn getting any of that gold, but look at the solo lanes, 1,000 gold in each of them for FPX right now. And especially Care on this Lucian really has the power to work with. See if 1xN can get on his carry pants, he's going to have to as we enter the mid-game here. 4-3, and it has been a tense game so far. We're basically even at gold. It's only 400 in favor of FPX. I am excited for what these mid-game fights could entail as first items start to be picked up across the board.
And this is now another part of this benchmark we have for ThunderTalk, which is, okay, you haven't faced an Ascension team since that group stage. That team was FPX. They beat you in those best of 3s as well, so this team in TT, yes, they did take a game off of JDG even all the way back then. They've had themselves a good start, but that's not enough to just have a good start against these teams in playoffs. You need to do better than that to start taking that advantage into a point where you can cleanly close it out. You have that one item spike now on 1xN. That is very powerful, and you're going to get towards an early tier completion as well. They are going to have that power, but they do need to use that power to close out the game.
Beichuan gets a shield away from the ace in the hole. Deokdam moves up to try and secure this crowd. Herald is up on the map, and it looks like FPX really want to fight for it, but TT not going away without a fight. But ZDZ's on the top side of the play, gets stunned by Beichuan, but that's not a 1v1 Beichuan wins. Has to ult over the wall himself as Ucal finishes the job onto the Lightning Rat. Care trying to do the opposite to Feather here. As True Shot Barrage goes through, hits only Deokdam, but here comes Hoya looking for the all-out. He'll just find the support as a cheeky little freebie on the bottom side of the play. TT take Herald.
So, overpush from FPX, big punish from TT, that'll get the Herald. Cat caught out briefly there too. This could actually be quite dangerous. When's the next E coming out from 1xN? Misses that W, kill threat goes with it, but TT, we did say they had some big power spikes coming up. Can they use them to make genuinely game-winning plays? That's the start of it. We see the power of the Diego leveraging onto that too. They get themselves that Herald, and despite FPX clawing back a bad early game, it was still a bad early game. They are not out of this dumps just yet.
And the thing is, that was FPX making the play as well. That was ZDZ trying to find a flank. Beichuan reading it pretty well, punishing it pretty well. That's 1xN is hunting for a Mystic shot on Deokdam here. Deokdam will walk away with his life, but that felt a little bit too close for comfort. Oh, 1xN's going to go for it. No, he's not. Okay. We've seen him E forwards a few times this game. I wasn't sure if he'd just hunt for that one extra Q to finish the job. Doesn't go for it in the end, but does shove Deokdam out of the mid lane. Collector and Boots finished off for him. He's entering now, though, the Caitlyn mid-game power trough, where you kind of need to go for your second item. It takes a while to get that second item, realistically. You do sort of just cease to exist for a little bit as Caitlyn in the mid-game. Not as bad as it used to be, but still not great.
Yeah. Yeah, Collector helps a lot with that. That's the first item now. They've really tried to set up this, haven't they? The Observer's toggling on that fog of war. Yeah, Feather's been here for a while. Beichuan's here now. Here's the teleport. ZDZ, this has been well overdue.
Yeah, Herald slammed down. ZDZ has the slicing maelstrom, but Hoya has that exhaust. Keep your eyes on Hoya, slamming that summoner spell as soon as ZDZ pops the ultimate. And in fact, he does. And in fact, it saves the team. And in fact, the tower goes down. And in fact, the cannon goes down. But it will be traded for a tower for Care on the top side. However, we're looking at a second charge. We could be looking at 2 towers here for TT.
The wave dies, though. I think ZDZ managed to clear that one out, so that's not going to be on the cards just for this point, at least. And FPX, they can stick in topside. Of course, they have the 5 grubs compared to just the 1 of TT, so they can do it without that fancy Herald stuff. They can try and put some damage down just with their own auto attacks. They take half their HP of that bot turret. Now, the big thing here, though, is TT get themselves soul point as well. On the Hextech Rift, Hextech Dragons are disgustingly powerful. That 5% attack speed and that cooldown reduction is a big prize for them. So, the overall trade is kill, tower, bit of a charge onto that inner turret, and of course the dragon, compared to just that tower and a half in that top side, nothing else really taken with it. So TT do still come out ahead, but FPX at least showing they can cross-map.
You know, FPX's macro, and certainly like responses across the map, I think was one of the big highlights for them in spring. You already mentioned their macro earlier on, but you know, we all remember the big backdoor plays that were being called by MilkyWay. We all remember the essentially answers. I think that's the biggest thing. FPX's macro moments back in spring felt like they were responses to mistakes from opponents. We are seeing a little bit of that from them in being able to respond with a tower, but still, as you say, it's soul point for TT. That's a Hextech Soul as well. That is a big deal, especially when this Ezreal continues to be so far ahead. He's getting close to that second item as well. He doesn't know how to miss a Mystic shot either. I mean, 1xN, he's the player we were talking about being the carry for TT, and he is just set up perfectly to do exactly that here.
I don't know, maybe he's been watching like the shooting events at the Paris Olympics. I don't know, maybe he wants to strike up a pose as well, because he ain't missing any of these. He's eyeballing those targets.
Is he the South Korean lady, or is he the Turkish guy that's hand in pocket, pistol out?
Maybe he's a third secret type, which fires like, you know, magical bolts instead of actual, you know, I think
at the Olympics maybe that might be cheating, to be honest.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why he's not here. He's bracing the Summoner's Rift instead. Engage comes through.
1xN's core has to cleanse, jumps away from MilkyWay, but can't return the damage, and there goes Feather as Hoya now on a flank, and Ucal wants to follow up as well. Live takes a chunk and will be finished off. There's one reset for the Braum, but can't find the passive. And now ZDZ has found himself behind enemy lines totally alone. Slicing Maelstrom available, but I don't think it's going to save him. Bit of damage across, but he falls once again.
FPX, they overstep. We called this out earlier. FPX's team comp is going to be punished if they overstep, particularly by that Aurora ultimate, which is exactly what Ucal does. Sets up for that Viego. The Aurora-Viego combo is starting to be really potent now. If you give over a powerful enough reset and in a powerful enough moment, things are really going to get difficult for FPX. And you know what? At the core of those oversteps, I think we have to start looking towards MilkyWay. These plays have been very, very aggressive for him. You can see the choke point they're trying to step up here, but he doesn't have the setup immediately. The Caitlyn's not going to be able to dash into the level that you want to. MilkyWay goes really deep here, and yes, they get Feather, but after this point, you've kind of forced your team to overcommit into this point. The Aurora will punish you. You have overstepped. It becomes very dangerous after that point. If this happened a few minutes later around a Baron spawn, that could have been really game-changing.
ZDZ as well kind of just caught off on the side. MilkyWay caught out again! You just said if it happens around the Baron, well, guess what? MilkyWay dies right next to the Baron. The rookie of the split, the superstar of spring, falls just as the biggest objective appears on the map. TT, not only should they get this Baron, but Drake's up again in 2 minutes as well, and they'll have Baron to set it up. FPX have to make a miracle happen. Ace in the hole does diddly squat. Care has to carry, but the Baron is already gone. Hoya trying to set it up here as Care will be the one to go down, and Beichuan finding more and more resets. ZDZ's got nothing in the tank, and TT obliterate FPX.
FPX find nothing at the Baron pit except thunder, lightning, and a lost team fight. TT, they have managed to recover a couple of their stumbles from earlier in the game, and they are now very firmly in a game-winning position. Baron buff, which can lead into that soul. They have themselves their 2-item spike on 1xN, and the whole team is firing off on all cylinders. FPX, we said they couldn't overstep. They do it twice in as many minutes, and the game's fallen apart.
And here I was saying group ascend is all that matters. Here I was discounting group Nymaera. TT having none of that. I mean, it's a tough fight to win 3v5. The Baron already goes down, exhaust comes in, and it's just too easy at that point.
I mean, just look at that Aurora ultimate. You're trapped in the pit. There's no way out from that. You're in a 3v5. What's worse than that? A 3v5 you can't even retreat from. That ultimate has been so valuable. And, you know, we did say we'd keep a track of, okay, what is the value of this Aurora? Does FPX have a way to counter in that Lucian? Care has done well on an individual level, but Aurora is not there for a lane value. He is there for the teamfight value, which is exactly what he's got. And now 20 seconds on the Dragon with a Medjai's built up as well. Ucal might just end the game with the next teamfight.
88% win chance for TT. That might be the highest I've ever seen on that chart. That is insane. Ucal doing some crazy things on the Aurora. Beichuan happy to follow up with those resets, but it's been a beautiful game here from TT. Hoya tanks up the culling. Feels like Care has to carry, but it feels basically impossible. As ZDZ jumps onto the back line, he's going to get Feather, but at what cost? Because the rest of the team is falling to pieces. 1xN happy to carry it as Hoya finishes off his lane opponent. And MilkyWay all alone in the world, and 1xN wants a bit of revenge for one attempted gank down in the bot lane early. You don't get away with nothing this time around.
Yeah, I don't think that's a kind little buddy in the mid lane. That is the killer buddy rabbit. Ucal gets onto the back line, and TT, they just end this game around that Dragon. They get that soul. They still have that Baron. A 7,000 Baron power play. A lot of our worries about Nirvana versus Ascend, I think we can put them to rest at least for now. This should be now a very, very competitive series, hopefully, after this point. FPX, they will have to step up to the plate, and that is probably not what a lot of people would have expected coming into today.
Yeah, and also, Ucal, we said he was on full build with just the Malignance. He's now got 20 stacks on a Medjai's. I take it back. He's 5 stacks away from full build at this point.
Yeah. This is just, what do you do here? He comes out of Invis, gets dunks onto your backline. You're playing a Caitlyn who lost lane, who can't set up in the objectives at the right time, is walking slowly into the river, and is now complete just fodder for the Aurora, for the Ezreal, for whoever wants to jump onto them. TT have a huge amount of damage, and I think this is the experiment game for FPX saying, we can let the Aurora through. I don't want to see that again. LGD did that versus NIP. I think it is a huge problem if you're not first picking it on blue side if it's available. We'll need to see if FPX find themselves on blue side again and leave that up. That will be a problem for another game. I think this game has very much gone out of proportion. 10,000 gold lead before 24 minutes. That's not okay, Joe.
It's a problem for another game, but honestly, FPX should be thinking about problems for other games at this point.
True.
This one feels bad as over as it comes to me, at least. It's 10 or 11,000 gold in favor of TT, as well as a Hex Soul. Elder coming onto the map in 4.5 minutes time. Maybe there's a miracle angle for that. But one thing I do want to quickly talk about is this Kennen pick for ZDZ. Because in the draft, I could see, like, you know, playing disengage with this composition with a Kennen to just sit in your team when Aurora comes in, you ult and kind of deny that all in. I don't feel like we've seen that at all from ZDZ. He's been looking for these flanks, and it's not worked out at all. Oh, God.
Oh, Deokdam. Well, this is why it doesn't work out. How can you play around organized team fights when you don't have an AD carry? Deokdam lost lane, and he has kind of proceeded to do very, very little, because then you're a Caitlyn, you just can't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, that last death just feels like tilt, doesn't it? There's no way a professional player should be caught out in that kind of position. That is a little egregious as a blast code to knock Ucal in. Okay, MilkyWay, I see you. Gets the blast code for the engage. There we go, Aurora down. Maybe there is a chance.
Alright, Killer Bunny Rabbit dealt with. We can move on with the story now. Ucal loses some Magi stacks, that's important. TT, probably not the way they wanted to close out that game. They just killed the AD carry. You would forgive them for thinking that the game was done after that point, pretty much. You could have potentially pushed in for an inhib and looked for one last big engage. Still has teleport, still has his ult coming up very soon after this point. I mean, FPX, what are they looking for now? Baron Steel, Elder Steel. They probably need both at this point, which is a problem when you can't even walk in towards the objectives.
I try and like read the gameplay here as a League of Legends commentator.
What have you read? What kind of genre is it?
What I'm hearing from 1xN is, shut up talking about Ucal. This ain't Ucal's game. I'm the superstar here. I'm the one that got a hat trick in the first 5 minutes of the game. I'm the one that's carrying these fights. And to be honest, you know, in hindsight, 1xN has been doing massive damage across these team fights. The Ezreal is well and truly online at 3.5 minutes. Like, I'm keeping my eyes on 1xN for the next fight.
And, you know, that really does encapsulate what he's brought to this team. This is not a one-carry team anymore. It was Ucal and 1xN. I think others have now stepped up to join them, but 1xN started that charge away from just the Ucal show. It's games like this which really prove how valuable he is as well. Another LDL, recent upcomer towards the LPL. He is just one-man army. He knows he can jump with the Braum. It's not a Dauntless. He can stand here. Who's going to punish him? MilkyWay has a flash W, but we've seen what happens to that before. 1xN, he can do whatever he likes.
Will he eat in? It's always the question with LPL Ezreals. He's away this time as Baron had been started by Beichuan and Ucal, but they peel away. 5v5 on the cards, but MilkyWay just ain't tanky enough. The Mystic shots do not know how to miss. And 1xN continues to snowball these fights like crazy. True Shot Barrage almost available again as well, and MilkyWay is already junked. He'll walk away with his life, but just the one pick is enough. There's a flash forward from Beichuan. ZDC locks him up, but there's just no damage, and Beichuan 1v1s the enemy top lane.
He's 2 levels up on the cannon. Yeah, you were calling out that cannon earlier. Where are the aggressive angles? Why aren't they working out? Well, they've been very well countered by TT, but also now at this point, there's just no XP. There's just no gold, and there's no hope in this one. We said FPX, well, they probably need to look towards a Baron Steel and Elder Steel. They're not even allowed close to them. This has been anything but a close mid-game after this point. We said that FPX, incredible macro team when it gets to, 35 minutes. I mean, we've got still 8 minutes left until it gets towards that point. Starts from FPX trying to force through mid lane, trying to get something into the river, but they can't even go the easy way into the river. Typically that is push in mid lane, avoid all of these scary choke points. They're not even allowed through that. TT, real credit to them. Yes, they're a Nirvana group. Yes, they are coming in as the lower seed here today, but they don't look like it. They're coming in with a really good set of skirmishing performances, a really good set of really good carry moments from multiple players.
And honestly, 1xN? I was going to say caught. He's not caught. He's on Ezreal. He's fine. And True Shot Barrage is going to jump 3 as well. MilkyWay, less than 2,000 HP in total, despite building tank on this Maokai. He's just not tanky enough. There's no way in for the side of FPX. It feels like the health bars just don't exist.
No, they don't. They are so easily shredded through by TT. They'll get themselves their first inhib. They don't even need to back off for the Elder if they don't want to. Why give FPX the chance to get a miracle steal when you just push into the base?
Well, TT, with the Baron, with the Hex Soul, they grab themselves that bottom inhib, and immediately They sort of do everything in their power to bring. Oh, hang on. 1xZ goes for these. I've seen him do it before. Life next on the chopping block. Colin comes on in and DDZ catches him. It's a shutdown and a half as Feather and Ucal trying to get on the bottom side of the play and will find ZDZ. Hoya looking to be the engage as Feather goes over the wall looking for a tether, but he can't find Care, and the stun goes wide on Deokdam. TT lose their big carry. Can't really snowball the fight.
And Feather really shows that Raptor what for. Tethers up the big Raptor instead. The Elder is still up. Life is still down. ZDZ is still down. It's a 4v3 around the Elder.
It's 3v3 right now as Hoya TP's back into the mid lane. He could get a flank angle here. This could be disastrous for FPX, and Care suddenly realizes what's going on. Pulled into the fray and taken to pieces. TT, they start strong in the bottom lane. They dominate the mid game, and now Hoya wants a slice of the action as we enter the late game. Elder taken, and TT show us that Nirvana ain't done just yet. Their group matters too. As Ucal finds a bonus. That'll be game, and that'll be TT taking the first of the series.
Yeah, are they Nirvana or are they ACDC? Either way, I think FPX have been thunderstruck. This has not been a close mid to late game. The Aurora is let through, the Ezreal goes off, and TT slammed through this first game.
FPX looking a little bit lost across the course of this one. His Life tries to 2v1. He's done everything he can as a Braum in that situation, but honestly, the Braum pick did not work at all. TT, a beautiful draft, a beautiful game, and honestly, a little bit of flexing from them across the course of game one.
Ucal finds himself his 25 stack Magi's at the end of that game as well. A lot of this patch, folks, is going to be about finding our new champions of power again, our power picks. I think Aurora has to be one of them. I'm so surprised they got let through. It's a red side of all things. We've seen this champion been banned or first picked. I think this has to be an experiment game coming in from FPX. This had to be that game to say, oh, we can deal with it with a Lucian. Because if they can do that, that changes their drafts. TT, for me, they walked away with a great draft. They walked away with those huge kills early game. And FPX, they have to start reimagining what they want from these drafts.
Yeah, FPX, they've got to change something coming into game number 2 because that was all TT all day long. The solo lanes did something in the laning phase, and that's sort of where the FPX story ended for game number 1. We'll jump into game number 2 right after the break.